That record had just left a San Diego bluegrass group called the Scottsville Squirrel Barkers. He was a mandolin player. And he ended up playing bass in this new group, and that was on the radio. Because I was growing up in LA, in this crazy music scene that the Dirt Band was lucky to be part of. Crazy. I mean, after we had our first hit, which was Buy For Me the Ring, minor hit. Nobody here would probably... Buy For Me the Ring was top 30, but that didn't do much past that. But it got us out there. When we did a show that year that was on the radio, 67, we did a show on a high school football field with the Jefferson Airplane, the Buffalo Springfield, the Doors, the Association, and the Byrds, and us and a couple other groups, and they charged $6 to get in. Well, that was what we call the good old days. Laurel Canyon is where I was living. You heard of Laurel Canyon? I mean, I feel very lucky to have been there. And it took us till our 5th album to finally get a record that kind of brought us out more, the one that Jerry Jeff wrote. And we were looking for songs for this 5th album. And we were, well, there was this kid hanging around the dressing room of the Troubadour. Have you heard of the Troubadour? Then some go that, well, the Sad Cafe in the Eagles song is about the Troubadour, the place on Santa Monica Boulevard that everybody played. And if you played it once, you had to play it 10 more times because the guy that owned it made you sign a contract. You will play this room, I will let you play here, but you must do 10 more weeks at scale, which is like practically nothing. You know? So you saw the Smothers Brothers, and we had to play off our 10-week options, but we kept them in business. But there was this kid hanging around the dressing room. Hey, would you guys want to do some of my songs? I got some new songs. Let me hear some of my songs. You don't know who that is, do you?
Jerry Jeff?
No, Jerry. We hadn't even heard of Jerry Jeff yet. But actually, I had him come up to my house in Laurel Canyon in 1969. Yeah, that's what it was. And record 7 songs.
Jackson Brown.
No, he was off. Now, see, that's another thing. Jackson played with 2 shows with the Dirt Band, and he decided to go off and write songs. And I'll get back to that other part of the story, but I'll never forget. I'll quit talking in a minute and play some songs. But he seemed to want to know what it was like back then. We're playing a club, and this kid walks in and says, "Hey, John, listen to this song." And he plays a song. And I go, "Oh, where'd you learn that?" He goes, "Oh, I just made it up." And, "Well, where'd you get the words?" He goes, "I wrote them." "Well, why are you playing the F chord without a..." Yeah, he was playing it instead of... I don't know. I thought it sounded better. I was the first guy to hear from his mouth. Well, I've been out walking these days. I don't do too much talking these days. And that was why he wanted to write songs, because that was one of his first songs that was killer. I went, oh wow, somebody should record that. I'm going to. I don't have a record deal. But this other kid, do you have that? Can you play that CD? Is that?
I can.
Park the dog.
Yep.
You want to hear what it was like in my living room in Laurel Canyon in 1969? And this is where one of these songs came. Now, I feel very fortunate to have been there, because I was laying on the things were going on. I was laying on the floor of the recording studio, and Linda Ronstadt was recording "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow," and I couldn't hear the music. I just heard her singing in the vocal booth mic, and it's like, wow, she's pretty good. I hope she gets out there. Yeah, hit it. This is a kid that I recorded when he was 19 years old. This is the first recording of this song that we learned it from a week later. It was on a Dirt Band album. Break it up a little. Hey, Joey.
Yeah.
See, he messed it up. That's Kenny Loggins, he's 19 years old. His first recording.
Christopher Robin, I walked along under branches lit up by the moon, holding a questions to here.
Anybody know this part?
But I wander much further today than I should, and I can't find my way to the 3-acre wood. So help me if you can. I've got to get back to the house at the corner I want. You'd be surprised at so much that we've done.
What?
Count all the bees in the hives, chase all the clouds from the skies. Back to the days of Christopher Robin.
That's enough, thank you. Thank you. And Jeff came into the rehearsal one day, because the last time we rehearsed was 1969, and he said, I just heard this song on the radio last night, and he went and learned it, because Jimmy Evanson said, I have that in my record collection. And his record collection was in the trunk of his Dodge Dart that he'd just driven out from Philadelphia. It was one record. He had one record under the spare tire. And that record kind of sounded like... Mama, don't let your baby go. Wrong Texan. Yeah, I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you in worn out shoes, silver hair and ragged shirt and baggy pants. He did the old soft shoe. Oh, he could jump so high, higher than anybody before or since. And then he lightly touched down. Now, Jerry Jeff told me a couple of years ago, I was asking him at his house in Austin, I said, what was going on when that song came along? And he said, well, I was a street performer, playing all over America, wherever I could, but my favorite city was New Orleans. And I'd go there for 4 or 5 weeks. But a funny thing, every couple of weeks they'd arrest all the street performers, put them in jail. You know, I'd be in jail with a guy with a trumpet and the juggler, another guitar player, harmonica player, and a dancer. And any dancer in New Orleans would call himself Bojanges, after the great Bill Robinson of the 30s. Only the difference about the guy I was in jail with, he thought he was Bojangles. I met him in a cell in New Orleans. We were down and out. He looked to me to be the eyes of age. And then he spoke right out. Oh, he talked of his life, and what a life he'd had. It seems like he'd been everywhere and done everything when I was a teenager in jail for the first time. Not the last. Then he said his name, Bojanges, and he danced slick across the cell. Then he grabbed his pants for a better stand so he could jump so high. And he clicked his heels. Oh, he let go a laugh. One you could hear all the way down that cell block that night. Somebody down at the end says, who is that crazy old man? I told him. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Dance. Oh, he danced for folks at minstrel shows and county fairs everywhere he could. Throughout the South. And he spoke with tears about all those years, that little puppy dog and him. While they traveled about. It was tears, because one day that dog of his, that constant companion, that one true friend, he just up and died. They always do that right when you don't want them to. You know his name.
Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles.
Yeah, I knew a man, Bojanges, and